Welcome to Young Money, the advice show for millionaires in the making. It's time for some $1 Million Straight Talk with me, Tracy Bissett. My hands-on experience and formal financial education make me uniquely qualified to coach about all things money. Each week, I'm going to tell you what you need to know now at the beginning of your earning curve. Basic and advanced financial concepts made clear, healthy money habits, and the missteps to avoid, and all the stuff that you can do to set yourself up for a financially fit future. You'll hear from experts, your fellow millionaires in the making, and me. Ready to lace up and start this week's financial fitness training? Let's do it. Welcome to the Young Money podcast. I'm really excited. We have a very special guest today, Alisha McFetridge. Welcome to the show, Alisha.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
We are delighted you are here. Alisha and I met earlier this year. Her company, Rainstick, was one of the Canadian CEO funded ventures selected this year. And so it's great that we can showcase her here on Young Money. So Alisha is an entrepreneur, musician, and bone tumor survivor. She is the co-founder and CEO of Rainstick, a clean technology company committed to cutting residential water usage in half. Rainstick is a high-flow shower system of 3 GPM that saves 80% water and 80% energy through point-of-use recirculation and filtration, making water clean and clear. She holds an MSc in Climate Change and Development and a Bachelor in International Business, majoring in sustainability. In 2020, she came first place in the Communitex Fierce Founders Competition and is also the recipient of the Caldwell Partners Future CEO Award, Royal Roads Leadership Award, and the TD Sustainability Award. She has spent time working, studying, and living in Kenya, China, the Netherlands, the US, and Canada, where she currently lives today. So welcome again, Alisha.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You are welcome. And again, congratulations on being selected as one of those CEO funded ventures. It's great to have your venture part of the community. And as we were talking before we got on the recording, I know that many of our listeners are very much interested in different paths to success. And I think your story really shows that. And I know so many of the Young Money listeners are very committed to sustainability. And so I think this episode is gonna bring all of that to them. So I'd love if you can start by sharing in your own words a little bit more about Rainstick and what a day in your life looks like.
Yeah, definitely. So I think you gave a really good summary of what Rainstick is. Just to provide a little bit of background, I grew up on the west coast of Canada, and a lot of people don't realize, but Canada has a desert, and that is the Okanagan Valley. And so growing up, showering was always something that bothered me because I would see water and it would touch my skin for a second and then it would go right down the drain. And I always thought it was incredibly wasteful. You know, we were conserving water in our community and I wanted to do something more. I knew that low flow options were out there, but they really, truly, barely washed the shampoo out of my hair. And so I thought there must be another way. And that's really, I would like to say, that's really where Rainstick started was years ago in the bathroom. But it was only a few years ago where, I said, it's time to do something more. I'd spent some time working overseas in more of a development context and spending some time in Kenya, in rural China, understanding water management and really how water is such a building block to livelihoods and education and and sanitation and health. And it's so incredibly important. Yet in North America, one of our largest challenges is overconsumption of water. And so kind of led me back to that original challenge that I had when I was younger. And so I said, now is the time. I have to do something about it, and started to brainstorm. And that's really where Rainstick started was, coming up with some different designs and, starting to cut out cardboard pieces and putting it together. And then, that led me to the Tin Man and, finding people to partner with and help with the R&D of Rainstick. But the ultimate mission is to allow people to live with, half the water, half the energy that they currently do, and to do it without compromise. And so our first product is that shower system. As you mentioned, it's 3 gallons per minute. And so it's actually higher than what you can find today
Wow.
with a traditional shower flow. And so we've done that through point of use recirculation and filtration that makes water clean and clear.
Well, that's wonderful. And it's very clear to hear the passion in your voice. And it sounds like this has been an idea like so many years in the making. And then you went on your adventures to really study it and figure out how best you could do this. And loved what you shared about the mission of allowing people to live with half the water, half the energy consumption, but without compromise. Because I think sometimes that when things are being done, there is some compromise piece to it. And so that makes it harder for people to want to adopt because they don't want to compromise. So I think you've nailed it there. Now, if you think about your background, and certainly you've achieved a lot of success to date, I rhymed off so many different awards that you have won. Certainly entrepreneurship in itself is an award because you're very busy doing so many things. Have there been any key themes or key success factors that showed up for you over the years when you think back to your background?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think, you go through the entrepreneurial journey and you learn so many different things along the way. I'm going through a raise right now with the business. And so, I would say one of the biggest things that comes to mind, particularly as of late, is learning how to persevere through the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think that in this space, it's really exciting, but it's also really new and it can be scary for some folks with change and innovation. And so I think being okay with it and being ready to just keep going and persevere, even though that sometimes you want to just give up and hide in a corner for a little bit. So I would say certainly having that and just being comfortable with saying, okay, I got a really good call this morning. I got a really bad call later in the day, but I'm going to keep going because Rainstick needs to be in market, and the mission, what we're doing, we need to be able to bring this to folks. And I would say another part of that is kind of similar to perseverance, but I think continually learning how to be scrappy and try to figure out how to sell Rainstick in a lot of different ways and meet with a whole bunch of different folks and learning how to pick up the phone and call people, even though it's honestly sometimes the hardest thing to do, to put yourself out there, but just learning how to do it and come up with different ideas and meet a lot of different folks. Because when you start meeting with folks, when you put yourself out there, particularly in business, a lot of really exciting things can happen.
Absolutely. And so I love some of those things that you mentioned, like learning how to persevere no matter what the circumstances are, obviously being resilient, just getting comfortable with your discomfort and really learning. I love how you coined it as kind of that being scrappy. What I also heard you say was that versatility and just being confident enough in the mission to put yourself out there. So even if today not too many people are interested, you're going to try again tomorrow, so that you can find who really can help you bring this to life, and knowing that the bigger mission is the most important thing. So
totally. Yeah. And one other thing, as I'm thinking about is when Rainstick was first started, I was incredibly fearful of putting something out there that wouldn't be accepted. But I think one of the things that I've even learned through this journey so far is I've seen a lot of incredible entrepreneurs, and I've learned from them. I've seen how they talk about their businesses and, how they are able to be confident and be able to drive the business forward. And I think that's the other piece of that is finding people that you can look up to. And that's been a critical success factor, to date in being able to get Rainstick to where it is.
excellent. And those are good tips. No matter you're in a job, you've got a side hustle, you have a business, or you're thinking about starting it, but being able to be confident, drive things forward, and find those mentors, whether they're sponsors, other colleagues that you can learn from their mistakes, make some new ones. So I think that would put our listeners in really good stead if they're putting some of those practices in action. Now, when you think about your life so far, and this could be personal or business-wise, wherever you want to go, what has been your biggest financial challenge or something you wished you'd known earlier in your life?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think growing up, I did not enjoy math. Okay. And so I always thought that math was connected to personal finances, business finances, and I thought I couldn't excel in that area. The funny thing in all of this is that I come from a family of accountants. My mom's an accountant, and so she got her CPA, and so she was always, shaking her head because she's like, how, like, are you my daughter? It gets so different. My sister is an accountant, and my dad's very well versed in kind of math, but for me it just didn't click, and I think sometimes you have to realize what sort of things you're good at, what other challenges you have. But in that way, I think financials, understanding P&Ls, balance sheet, it always really scared me. I didn't know where to start. And so even going into the business, I remember the first time I had to create a financial model. And it was, for it was an application that I was writing, and, an advisor at the time wanted to be able to understand where the business is at. And so I was tasked with this. And it took me a long time because I didn't know where to start. I didn't know what to put in there because I didn't feel like I had the ability to really do it. But, and that's kind of where, in my case, I was able to call on some folks to help me with those initial steps. And certainly, I would say that's one of the challenges in overcoming and realizing, hey, no, I do know this. I understand the P&L. I know how to read a balance sheet. I'm now able to speak confidently about where we're at with the business. But it certainly was not a natural skill set. It wasn't something that I was comfortable with. And I have to say, one of the greatest compliments, this was only 6 months ago. I was talking to my mom because I had a question about something. And she's like, wow, you really get your P&L. And, it was just a side comment. But to me, I was like, yeah, I do. I get this because, this is where you're going. And so I think certainly that's been a challenge that I've had to overcome, understand where some of the shortfalls are, but then, find ways to improve it. And I think that it's possible for a lot of people that I speak with.
For sure. And there's a couple of things that kind of were coming to me as you were saying that. So number one, like to be able to create a product like you have to be good at math because there's numbers involved in science. So it's just kind of putting a different lens on it. But then what often happens and what I often hear from entrepreneurs is that there's this feeling like I'm supposed to know this stuff. And you start a business because you have passion and you excel at whatever your business is in, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be automatically set up to cover the financial side. So even when I started my business, I was a banker by background for so many years, and I was great at like 3 things: financial modeling, cash flow planning, evaluating companies. But when I needed to do marketing and create a website and social media, I had to get help. And so just want to remind everybody out there who's in entrepreneurship or who's thinking about it, you don't need to know all this stuff in advance. It certainly can be learned. And Alisha, your story really speaks to that. And it must have been such a proud moment when your mom said that to you, because you're really like, okay, my mom's an accountant. She gave me a compliment about my financial acumen.
Yeah, totally. And I think to your point, Tracy, yeah, you don't have to be good at everything, but that's why you learn along the way. You find the areas or the sore spots that you might need help with, and you reach out and you're able to bring people on. I think sometimes going into entrepreneurship, it can seem incredibly scary because you feel like you need to be good at everything. But I think just accept that there are risks involved, accept that you're going to be really good at some key pieces, whether it be, developing the business, understanding the business world or the sales world or the marketing world, and then finding people to really attach and be able to carry you through, I think is really important.
Absolutely. Some of the stuff you already mentioned about reaching out, learning from people, asking for help, persevering, like all of that contributes. This message is for all of the entrepreneurs and those thinking about entrepreneurship who are listening. I would love for you to join us for the Financial Foundation to Entrepreneurial Peace training, where you will learn the keys to financial basics and money mastery. This live, free 5-day training has been specifically designed for you, for those in industries online and offline who want to proactively change the way you're handling your money matters and navigate the current environment with success. If you want to make informed, powerful money decisions in your business, you do not want to miss this important live training. We are kicking things off shortly, so register now at bizpeace.com. All of the details are in the show notes, so you can get the information there, and I can't wait to have you join us. See you soon. So now that you have experience running your business and bringing this product to the market, we'd love to hear some advice for the Young Money listeners when it comes to entrepreneurship. So love to start with success tips and then to move over to perhaps missteps that you're aware of. They could be ones that you made yourself so that they can be making new ones. So we'll start with success tips for them, things they should be doing.
If you can do anything, I would say track where you're at continually. And so what do I mean by that? I mean, one thing that I think that I've started learning now, and I realize how important it is, but it comes from one of my challenges originally, is I would have really great conversations with people. I would think that I would remember it, but then I would often forget some of the details later on. And so from a sales perspective, having that tracking in place or writing down those conversations or having some sort of mechanism in place where that is being captured, I think is really, really important. And I think something that once I did realize it's been such a huge help. And I would say that's a key kind of success area, is being able to track what you're doing. And on that same note of tracking is being able to celebrate where you're at. So the second thing I would say is something I only started doing about a year ago is this idea of 3-month years. So you plan where you want to be in a year's time, in 3 years' time, but then you also plan where you want to be and your key things that you need to accomplish over the next 3 months. And you treat that as almost like a mini year. And you pick just your 3 top areas that you need to focus in on. And then every 90 days you evaluate. You said, okay, how did it go? What's stopping me? What are some of the challenges that I'm facing with that? But it just really assists in breaking down that really big goal for the year and puts it into just a 90-day tangible goal or tangible tactics that you're going to be able to achieve. And through doing that, it's just provided so much clarity in kind of where we're at with the business. But I think, the other part of kind of the success factor is just being okay with no's. It's learn how to be okay with no's. I think when I first started, again, I mentioned I was afraid to put myself out there. I was afraid of the no. I was listening to every piece of feedback that someone would give me, and it was really affecting me. But when you start just saying, wait a second, okay, that's what someone thinks. I'm going to talk to 20 people and see if they have the same opinion. And if they do, okay, then that's a trend, and I should take note of that. But if one person way off here gives me a piece of advice that I've never heard before, take it with a grain of salt, because you also know your business and being confident in that. Otherwise, you can be going, to the right, to the left, to, backwards, trying to capture all that feedback and change. And so just being true to where you are. And yeah, I think, in kind of my answers here, I've kind of addressed some of the challenges as well. It's just being confident with yourself, learning how to track and measure is certainly something that I kind of had to think about. And on that note, celebrating some of the wins and breaking it down so that you can clearly understand where you're supposed to go.
Excellent. Really loved what you said about the feedback piece, because it's important to evaluate the source of the feedback. Does someone know anything about this? Are they just giving feedback because it's their opinion? Are they qualified to provide feedback? Are they your target client? All of those kinds of things really come into play. So love it how you said track where you are continually. To me, that's music to my ears as a financial coach, not only just on the numbers, but any operational metrics. And then very critically, what you raised as your example around the sales conversations, because without that ability to follow up properly, opportunities may be lost. So I think that's a huge tip for everybody, making sure you celebrate. And I love that concept of the 3-month years, because it allows you to get very focused and granular and make sure you're not getting your attention split across too many different things. And so kind of on the flip side, I heard then don't get carried away with listening to the feedback, not being shy, being able to put yourself out there. Anything else that you would say you would have done differently?
Yeah, I think I was so scared to, in my case, quit my job. And so it took me a number of years to quit my job and start Rainstick. If I were to do it again, I would have started way sooner, because this idea has been in the making, but I was just so afraid of accepting some of those risks, those calculated risks. And I wish I had jumped into it with 2 feet and embraced that a lot sooner. And so I think it's always that fine line, because you need to make sure you have, your rent paid or your mortgage paid. But at the same time, it's just, I think that sometimes when you put yourself in this uncomfortable situation, you'll figure it out, because you have to figure out where to go from there. And for me, I think in retrospect, I would have done it a lot sooner. And I would have just, stopped caring so much about everyone's opinion. And I think that, you know your business. It's fantastic to get advice from people, but don't let it really derail you in such a way. Learn from it. If something bad happens, learn from it quick and try something else. Strategically fail, I think is something.
That's a new one. I haven't heard that one before, so that's a good one.
Strategically fail and do it fast. I think that's important. Yeah. But the last thing I'll say is something that I think I'm learning, and I don't think I'm quite there yet, but it's something I truly believe is really important that we embrace. I think sometimes within the startup culture, you can be told to work. You should be working at 11 p.m. You should be working at 3 a.m. and you keep going. But I actually think that there's a lot of beauty in this idea of balance and making sure that you take time for yourself, particularly with COVID happening and people are working from home, but finding that space to be able to relax, rejuvenate, because even in a startup, your whole world can just become this one thing. And I think that something that I've really, really tried to embrace. I'm not there quite yet, but finding that balance and saying, you know what, I'm going to go for a walk right now because I need it. I'm not going to, respond because you always have endless amount of work to do, but it's just like taking a break from it and feeling okay about it, not feeling guilty. And I think sometimes we don't do that enough because we're told that, we need to get to the top and we need to just keep on going, which I think is really good. But take time for yourself to be able to reflect, because that's really where the magic happens.
Great. And I'm going to dig a little bit deeper on that. Just so say you took a break, you took a walk, or you're going to say, I'm going to do email tomorrow. I'm going to leave it and take the evening off. How are you feeling when you're coming back to the business?
A lot more. You have often reflection and the ability to make decisions where you couldn't make them before, or you felt really stressed out about it. I think that even sometimes when you have to make really hard decisions, something that I am learning, I don't want to say I've fully learned, but don't make them right away. Take time, take space, step away from it. You don't always have to make those decisions so quickly, because sometimes they can be rushed. I would say take the time, and sometimes those decisions also resolve themselves when you have space in order to be able to do that.
Absolutely. I know I am able to sort through things while I'm sleeping. So I know for me, if I'm trying too hard to figure something out, if I get a good night's sleep, usually when I wake up in the morning, I know what I need to do. So everybody's got a different way, and love how you shared that, because I think it is so important, particularly given COVID is still hanging around and everybody's working even more than they were. So thanks for being so candid and sharing of your experience with that.
Yeah, of course.
Now I know, or I don't know, I'm imagining what the answer to this question will be. When it comes to financial matters, who inspires you? And it could be somebody we all know. It could be somebody personal in your life. So I'm imagining some of your family's in there, but maybe not.
I would say up there is my family for sure. They've been such a rock, and it's very nice. I mean, we've had some great advisors and people with a lot of financial acumen, I think, as it relates to kind of the startup space, but nothing beats, the ability just to call up your family if you're dealing with something from a financial perspective and saying, hey, what do you think about this? Am I on the right track with this? So I would say my mom would be kind of that person. She's that rock when I need that that quick advice from a kind of a financial perspective.
And now, before I let you go, are there any final pieces of advice you'd like to share with the listeners? So it could be something new that you want to mention or something that you've already shared with us that you'd really like to reiterate and make sure they're taking it in.
Yeah, I think that life, wherever you're at, whatever business you're embarking on, or your side hustle, or you're considering jumping into the entrepreneurial journey, maybe you're already in it. I think so many times there's a lot of things that come up. Just be you, do it your way. I think there's a lot of noise in even the entrepreneurial space saying that you have to, raise capital, you have to sell big, and you have to get a 10x return, and you have to, become a unicorn. I would say do you and make your business, whatever it is, make it your own. Be proud of what you're doing, whether it be impact related or, connected to social challenges or connected to the environment or something completely different. I would say just do it to the way that you want to do it, and know that people will always have opinions. And so persevere through that. And I think that you'll see some really cool and exciting things happen.
Well, I think that's fantastic. And so hope everybody was taking note of that. Really great points from Alisha. What are you working on now, or what's the company working on? And where can listeners who want to find out more about you and more about Rainstick, how can they do that?
Yeah. So firstly, Tracy, thanks so much for having me. It's been fantastic. We are working on Rainstick right now. We are officially going to be installing some Rainsticks over the next couple of months. You can find us at www.rainstickshower.com. You can find us on social. We do have an Instagram page, rainstick.shower. We're on LinkedIn as well, and Facebook. Come and check out. I'd love to hear your feedback, what you think. We're currently in the process of finding distribution partners and interested parties. So definitely feel free to reach out to us, and I'd love to speak further with you.
Well, that's fantastic. And certainly we'll put all of those links in the show notes. So anybody who missed them, you'll be able to just go there and grab them. Thank you so much, Alisha, for joining us today. I know that I'm taking away so many great points. Loved really how Rainstick started so young in your life, and that this idea was there, and that it was something that you stuck with, didn't jump to it immediately, but you were figuring out the best way to be able to tackle this problem. I think that shows how much commitment you have to the environment and to sustainability, which is tremendous. Love the themes that you shared around your entrepreneurial journey, those success tips around tracking and celebrating and being okay with who you are, and to take those breaks, because I think that's really important as well. And finally, love that final piece of advice you shared about doing it your own way, being you, not getting caught up in the hype about what entrepreneurship is supposed to be. And that's really a lesson that the listeners can take for anything that they're embarking on. Know yourself, do it your way, and then enjoy your life. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. And hopefully, depending on, where the listeners are at, where you are in your journey, hopefully there'll be, a couple things that resonate. Tracy, I appreciate the time, and I appreciate having me on here today.
Excellent. Well, we are so glad you were here. And so there you have it, listeners. Alisha McFetridge, entrepreneur, musician, co-founder, and CEO of Rainstick. Check out all the details in the show notes. And until next time, take good care and stay financially fit. Hey, thanks for tuning in. To all you millionaires in the making out there, if you love this podcast, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts to keep your financial fitness training going. Oh, and leave us a review. And be sure to visit financialfitness.com to take your free financial fitness assessment. Find out how financially fit you really are. See you next week, millionaires to be.